Andy, Luke, and today I want to tell you about a show I'm a big fan of. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and a show I'm not fan of, Doctor Who. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is a show where the lead characters slather themselves in bad behaviour, crack cocaine, poisoning, banging one another's girlfriends. Conversely, Doctor Who is set around a being who prides themselves on a high moral code as they travel around the galaxy, whereas the owners of Paddy'S pub don't see why they should leave Philly. During the Doctor's third regeneration, one of my favourite eras, the character found himself grounded, exiled to Earth. This immortal altruist took employment with unit military intelligence sometime in the 1970s. Thinking about these two shows led me to ask myself, what if the Doctor was anchored to Paddy'S pub? Thinking about these two shows led me to ask myself, what if the Doctor was anchored to Paddy'S Liberator, centuries old, who believes all life is precious, alongside Dennis, a narcissistic sociopath and probable murderer, Mac, a needy machismo godbotherer, Dee, a callous, cawing, shallow manipulator, Charlie, an abuse victim with substance addiction, and Frank, who travels in the realms of depravity like the Doctor travels in time and space. How would the Time Lord cope, say, if they were the sixth member of the gang? There's no doubt Hartnell's Doctor had a certain severity which I think would lend himself well to the gang's antics. And when he was pushed, it was not unknown for him to push back. He'd like to smoke a pipe, indulge in a spot of kidnapping, electrocuting trespassers, trying to kill a caveman, and a fair amount of lying. He gave Nero the idea for the Great Fire of Rome.
There's still a flaming bag of poop in the window.
Is into his smacked bottoms, and once called out a room full of Arabs. This Doctor seems to have the most in common with the gang, and as the youngest incarnation, may be the most vulnerable to being swayed by the gang's excesses. The gang have a way of justifying their courses of action to each other through bickering. It might be that the Doctor could see the reasoning in some of their schemes, perhaps even making them worse. By the same token, they're likely to split into subgroups to backstab one another, or as individuals. I can see Hartnell's Doctor fitting in well here. The TARDIS might be left alone with Dennis uninterested, though Charlie, with his passion for environmental efficiency, might cause a problem or two.
Or I could burn it up and get a nice smoky smell in here and let that smoke go into the sky where it turns into stars.
The Doctor will have to get by in contemporary Philly, the Eagles, the World Series, because he's time-locked now, and many of the first Doctor's stories were historicals. Imprinted by the gang, he may even make the cracking of the Liberty Bell more outlandish, although the gunfighter survives. The real jam in the mechanism is Frank. He and the Doctor would butt heads, both believing themselves to be alpha males. The first Doctor can have a nasty temper on him at times, and it might be Frank is biting off more than he can chew. Apparently the first Doctor had bad teeth.
You had to leave Anne Shapley there to die. The girl! The girl was with me!
The second Doctor's high point of manipulation was seemingly abandoning his BFF, Jamie, who was forced to take part in the Daleks' version of Fight Club.
All right, Jamie. They're friends. Friends? Now, don't get the wrong idea.
As Jamie fought the mute brute, the Daleks would extract the Scots lad's DNA to more easily defeat humanity. Otherwise, the girl Victoria dies.
Oh, wait. Let me just switch gears here.
Dwelling on the manipulation of Jamie misrepresents Doctor Who. For the space hobo, it's as if evil prevents him from being himself. He's a clown and buffoon as well, and these factors would change a whole group's politics of the gang. We can see Charlie being brought first into his orbit of tomfoolery, and bringing with him Frank and Mac. There's all that opportunity for fishing genuine Philly macra. It may even be that if Troughton arrived in Paddy'S pub before Danny DeVito, we'd see a Frank Reynolds whose life path would be one of altruism and charitable giving.
Bullshit.
Dr. 2 is completely in opposition to the gang's schemes, scams, beefs, and burns. All he needs is to gain the trust of one ally like Charlie, and the clown hero trickster, the tactician of tomfoolery, is thwarting the gang's schemes.
Now listen, everyone, just follow me. We're going to take over the war room. Stand still! Don't move! You are completely surrounded!
Doctor!
Thank you, Doctor. A nice, neat little package for us to dispose of.
We're talking stopping arson attacks and deleting videos, rescuing the waitress from alcoholism, playing the recorder in The Nightman Cometh, and we might imagine Charlie encountering Yeti in the sewers, the tomb of the McBoyles. 2 in Paddy'S is literally a base under siege story. While he might be outnumbered and out of his depth, this is where he thrives. Dennis is his real end boss, and I think the Doctor might just wear him out. Their conflict will probably start over fashion trends and fashion sense. While I think the second Doctor would call the shots in Paddy'S, he is just too unpredictable to call. We'd need to analyse one episode, see where that what if takes us. It would certainly be interesting. Because the Exiled aspect was mapped out in John Pertwee's run as 3, we can make a reasonable estimation how things would play out. Certain traits of the Doctor flare up around the gang, primarily his rugged moral stance and refusal to be compromised. Indeed, his list of crimes is so short. Near the top is stealing Joe Grant's sandwiches.
You gave me a shitload of shares one time for a half a sandwich.
He also stole the Metabelus crystal near the end of his run, but it's not a job he'd have trusted the gang to bring them in on.
There is a spider, spider, spider. It's deep in my soul, soul.
While they share his anti-authoritarian streak, it's unlikely to bond them, but bring them to loggerheads instead. The third Doctor likes to work independently and get in other people's faces. There's no room for them to become friends.
Oh, shit, no! Dude. Shit! Oh, shit! He made a lucky guess, and he put us all in danger.
You made a poopy in your pants!
It's hard to see a situation whereby he leaves Paddy'S pub standing, or where the gang get organised to do a cricket on him. A motif of the third Doctor's time was aliens or monsters that would show up each week while he was grounded on Earth, almost as if he was phoning them up and inviting them over. In any case, there'd be lots of potential in this crossover. Oil crisis of the Daleks, Dennis of the Autons, Frank sets the dinosaurs on fire, Gail the Snail, the gang eats the sea devils, Carnival of Junkies, and Planet of the Cats at 3 a.m. The icon, the fourth Doctor, unpredictable, no slouch morally, one of the best in keeping his reactionary hand of cards close to his chest. Sure, his interference once made him
The Golden God!
And his assistants are likely to catch Dennis's eyes, his eccentricities appealing to Charlie and Frank, all of which sidles into question here. How would the gang react to his attempts to usurp them?
Would you like a jelly baby?
Shut up!
Well, simple enough, thank you would have been sufficient.
Yes, no jelly babies are safe before the fingers of Frank Reynolds.
Talented entertainers who I am not attracted to at all will be the winner. I'm not attracted to any of them. None of them. And that's the way it is.
Well, you wouldn't want to turn your back on him. The fourth Doctor is a traveller, which doesn't bode well for Paddy'S road trips. He would be infuriated by the cooped-up status quo of life at Paddy'S pub. We can envision his experimental side, making use of all the flammable liquids and glass vessels in the bar.
Why don't you make us a drink?
With unexpected consequences. Look, I'm no expert in the Fourth Doctor, but it seems to me his adventures are as odd as he is, making for an odder Cold War. His twist and twirl streams of consciousness would certainly incapacitate Mac, forever following the maddest logic like a puppy dog with all manner of surreal spin-off. Mac would certainly be caught in a battle to one-up the Master for spooky look badass potential. Baker's incarnation tapped on the gothic horror style.
I thought you said Blackula, like a black vampire.
So we'd certainly get Sonny like Mac and Dennis invest in a Pyramids of Mars scheme, or if you prefer, the gang mummified D. A loose word about meeting vampires, and Frank would be investing in blood, perhaps Cricket's blood. His brain is pretty much in a state of decay anyhow. I can see Cricket going along with this willingly, on learning the Doctor has two hearts, and told he may have other organs to spare. In the Gothic tradition, the Mooring Ponderosa wedding massacre may survive intact. Horror of Fang Rock pretty much involves a sale of teeth, right? You would really hope the gang and the Doctor don't visit Chinatown.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, what's going on there, pal?
Oh my god, I just found a rat's nest. Slaughtered about 200 of them.
Do I have the right?
The Fourth Doctor is smarter than the gang, more cunning. In my headcanon, he'll build a room in the TARDIS, which is an exact replica of Paddy'S pub. Lure them in, lock the doors, contain the threat, and never have to worry. So rest easy. We're never getting as far as a reclusive, crazed collector in The Seeds of Dennis. We don't have to contemplate what they do to K9, right?
The dead dog in the alley, it's been there for about a week.
Dr. Five, with his soy-boy dress and kindly mannerisms, is a natural target for the gang's bullying. This guy is Frank's patsy. He's Dennis's bait into luring women. Heck, pretty soon those tidy whites are getting stinky black from Charlie work. His veneer of sophistication momentarily can work on Mac, but soon the traditional gang factionalism comes into play. Assuming D doesn't break his nose, or worse, report him to the cops for not sleeping with her. This is where the pecking order comes into play. D is smart enough to realize an opportunity. The Doctor will pretty much be in her sway as a buttress against the gang's excesses. He'll wish for the days of the Master, crusty, crispy, or otherwise. As Dee's puppet, we'll see the Fifth Doctor roped into her Pondy scheme, be the front line against the McPoyles, defeat Charlie as a definitive games master. We're talking a new rock bottom. Tethered to the bar, justifying his actions as being a stand-up gentleman in a tall bird woman's best interests is the nearest to a lifeline the Doctor has. Five's bad boy record is short. Infamously, it includes the death of Adric, which, yes, I saw this when I was 10 years old, and it's as traumatizing as any of the gang's misdeeds. But look, he did give the lad plenty of warning. What happened after the death of Adric, set alongside shenanigans with the gang, leads to the real plausibility of having Five beaten down. But by the same token, the gang would ignore similar cautions, earth-shock level or otherwise. They just haven't got Adric's super brain.
Placebo.
In the final analysis, the gang destroying themselves might be the Doctor's best hope. Oh yes, he'll wait. The Doctor's not ruthless enough to say, I really forbid you from jumping headfirst into that empty swimming pool. It may be that he has to wait for Doctor Day, which I think only happens every 50 years. The Doctor's in distress. Watch out, Doctor, the gang will leave you in a mess. A real Doctor Who fan could tell you this could go any number of ways, but I'm not a real Doctor Who fan. On the other hand, I hear there's clickbait in it. 6 is pretty straightforward. A nutter. He's gotten into tormenting folk and strangling. He's eradicated a species called the Vervoids. He loses his temper at any given moment, talks over people, shouts over people. Sometimes he's armed and dangerous, and he's a control freak. Reminds you of anyone? Oh yeah, he's also used fatally poisonous vines. What good is the doctor's morality if he's angry all the time? Which he would be in this scenario. It might escalate to the gang sticking him in a sack laden with bricks and throwing him to the bottom of the Delaware River. But given the gang and Six's behavioural overlap, is there a way they might meet somewhere in the middle, become a compatible social unit? He's a self-absorbed, obnoxious egomaniac, as brash and patronising as Dennis, prideful and sarcastic as Dee. If they can succeed in manipulating him with a back rub or two, come on, Doctor, you're not too big to play night crawlers. His morality was problematic insofar as he was a snob who perhaps just needed to roll about in the sewers a bit. I imagine Six's attire is written in a language Charlie can read. Frank might be buoyed up by the psychedelic and ketamine nightmare that is this Doctor. So yes, with some manipulation, the Doctor could become a member of the gang and do quite well. If he and Dennis can balance their egos and their needs to dominate, it's a viable plausibility here. They'd certainly make a formidable power couple. The Sixth Doctor's era was short, with a high ratio of classic villains. How long before the Cybermen break down the doors of the bar, bond with Cricket's cybertronic limbs and upgrade him? Would the Doctor and the Reynolds twins bond over two 45-minute episodes called The Mock of the Rani? Is Frank selling weapons to the Daleks or the Sontarans? Well, both at the same time, obviously. Colin Baker's era gave us a multi-Doctor story, the Doctor seeing his second incarnation's life threatened and travelling back in time to stop a DNA thief. In The Two Macs, a leak from the TARDIS caused by its proximity to where Charlie has been burning trash results in the Doctor getting a vision that Mac's life is at risk because of diabetes. Yeah, in the original story, a key villain is literally a bad cook who the Doctor kills. The Two Macs has legs, one ribbed and the other wobbling. The gang would have come in very useful when a senior TV critic cancelled Doctor Who.
I'll defuse the situation.
This Doctor's run ended with an epic story, The Trial of a Time Lord. Well, it wasn't all epic. It introduces the Doctor's exercise bike, so that's something to talk with Mac about. The Doctor was charged with interfering with other races and genocide. We'll get to that.
Making him yet another stupid bitch!
In Trial of a Time Lord, the story behind the scenes of the two-part Judgment chapter sounds as if the gang worked on that story themselves. Everyone who touched the script walked out, took ill, died, refused to write it after being pushed to the limit repeatedly, and was finally rushed out in 3 days. Say, do you remember that iconic Fourth Doctor scene?
Do I have the right?
Home planet Scarrow about to vaporize!
No, Davros. You tricked yourself.
Let's meet Doctor number 7, The Seventh Deadly Sins. Sylvester McCoy was the Doctor I travelled with. He began as a clownish figure, a boiled-down Colin Baker, where it would have been hard to see him stand up to the gang. In fact, his love of pratfalls might endear him to be on the receiving end of Mexican baby scams, wrestling for the troops, even taking sides in the war between the aluminum monster and Fatty Magoo. His first adventure was literally about dressing up in someone else's clothes, followed by a visit to the Ice Capades. But come McCoy's second season, real McCoy, a master manipulator capable of seismic shifts, who I believe not only could outplay Dennis, but in fact the whole of the gang. He's the GOAT when it comes to talking down people from using guns. The gang's best strategy is to genuinely win his trust, which is a feat in and of itself. The Doctor isn't averse to his friends using rocket launchers and canisters of highly explosive material. The Doctor's broad strategy and manipulation can be summed up as giving his opponents a nudge in a certain direction, whereby they will destroy themselves. And with the gang, that'll probably take no time at all. He'll even manipulate his friends without qualms. By getting them to look into the eye of their biggest vulnerabilities, he leads them into darkness. The gang have a lot of skeletons. Mac, as the most pliable, will fall first. Charlie with his doubts. The twins have just too much destruction left in their wake to survive having that thrown back at them. Then there's Frank. The man has no moral bottom line. You can make him understand he's committed the worst of crimes, and he'd just shrug it off. We have seen him crack under his emotional regrets. However, it's through Frank that the gang's best hope for business as usual scheming comes. But Seven is highly attuned, and the gang are outmatched. Maybe you've seen Remembrance of the Doctor, Bluewood Nemesis, Dubious Survival. The gang sits inside your head. The gang lives among the dead. The gang sees you in your bed and eats you when you're sleeping. Romantic adventurer, optimist, realist. The last Doctor of the classic age is a delightfully pleasant Paul McGann, exploring the universe with a wide-eyed wonder. Welcome to the real Time War, Paul. The Eighth Doctor is open to seeing the best in humanity, which is his first mistake. His fondness for high society locations, combined with Frank's range of contacts, makes for an all-access city pass for 24/7 destruction. About the time it gets wise to one member of the gang, I feel, is a time when another member pitches to him betraying another. His adventurous streak leaves him open to the gang's schemes, although not exactly not proactive. He'll do his best to fit into the archetype of the bystander. The bystander, or the mark, is often pitched something by the gang, assaulted by them, or just targeted as a ritual focus of the week. Their presence is an essential part of the Sunny formula, where the effluence from Paddy'S spears into reality. Eight's presence here gives whole new meanings to Night of the Doctor. Of course, it's also suggested the Doctor committed a number of wartime atrocities.
I didn't go to Vietnam just to have pansies like you take my freedom away from me.
You went to Vietnam in 1993 to open up a sweatshop.
And a lot of good men died in that sweatshop.
So classic episodes might include The Chimes of Nightman, Waiting for Big Zagreus, Storm of the Century Warning, Every Member of the Gang Creates a Time Paradox, and Schizo. And that's our big finish. Give us a subscribe, give us a share. Tell me what you thought of this. Am I on the money or a tasteless, privileged hack out to cancel both shows? Do you have theories of your own on how these scenarios could play out? Some short pitch fanfic? Leave it all in the comments. I want 500 comments. Otherwise, I'm going to have to talk to Frank and the Master about their bot farm operation. Thank you to all my patrons on patreon.com/AndyLuke, which is not just YouTube previews 2 to 8 weeks in advance. No, there's also comic books and stories, my novels, and my latest one, Coastlines After Dark, which you can also get from any number of ebook retailers, as well as in print from Amazon and Barnes & Noble. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm actually struggling to talk my way through it because I've got a pretty bad cold. But I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and probably, hope you're loving 2025. And we'll do a second part of this then.
Unlimited rice pudding!